The last question that was proposed to us is, how consistent are you in demonstrating integrity in all of your actions at work? Right off the bat, I feel like everybody just wants to say, yes, 100% of the time, I act with integrity at work. I think it's important to remember that in the end, we're all humans. We all make mistakes. No matter what position we hold or what experience level we hold, we're always learning something new. And chances are we're not always making the right decisions in the moment. We may be using bad judgment. We may make a decision that we don't necessarily think is unethical, but we later learned that it is in fact unethical. So like I said, nobody's perfect, and I think exceptions must apply. And I think that if anybody says that they 100% of the time act with integrity, they're probably not being truthful. That's kind of my first initial reaction to the post. Like I said before, new situations could test the limit of our ethical bounds. For me, that could mean that a situation presents itself that I have no experience in, and I'm gonna use my best judgment to make the best decision that I think at the time. But there could be a regulation or law that says that I can't do what I decided to do in that moment, and part of that could just go with lack of experience. But again, it's a new situation, and we can't always make decisions with all the information at hand, and things happen. The last part, like any other leadership skill, integrity is a constant working element and must always be improved upon. I think no matter what your level of experience is, there's always room for improvement. There's always new stuff to learn, and just like communication and writing and public speaking, to me it's a diminishable skill that you must constantly work at. And I think integrity is one of those things. I think you actively have to think about acting ethically and carrying yourself with integrity on a day-to-day basis. And if you don't, then that like any other skill, your ethical nature will suffer. After doing the reading, I still think it's true that nobody can act with integrity 100% of the times. Mistakes will be made. Again, integrity is a work in progress. We learn from ourselves and from our actions every single day. Depending on what type of learner you are, I know for me, I learn from the mistakes that I make, and mistakes are going to happen. I think it's just important to note how you kind of bounce back and react to those mistakes make a big difference. I pulled this right out of the book because I think after reading it, I think for the most part I apply all 8 of these principles. These are the 8 principles of ethical conduct listed on page 68 in our text. And so the first one is do my best work. I think that if you strive every day to do your best work, then you're meeting that requirement, even if you have a bad day. As long as you try to do your best work, I think you're doing the right thing there. The next one, avoid conflicts of interest. I think it's easy to fall prey to that. Maybe somebody in a higher up position, and they kind of help you rise the ladder of the organization. There could be a conflict of interest there when you have two people going up for a job and you have a friend that's a deciding factor. It's not fair to the other person, and so I think as long as you try your best to avoid acting in situations where there might be a conflict of interest, maybe recuse yourself, you'll go ahead and meet that requirement. The next one, speak truth to power. To me, it just is saying to speak the truth and be truthful. That's a pretty easy thing for everybody to do. To me, that doesn't really go hand in hand with when you need to withhold information legally and under the ethical bounds, because withholding information is sometimes just as bad as lying. In this case, I don't think that's what it is. The next one, be a good citizen. I mean, it doesn't really take a whole lot of work to do that. And I think when it talks about citizen, it doesn't necessarily mean a citizen of the country, but more as a citizen of the organization. And be a good citizen of the organization. Promote the ethical policies that are there, and just carry yourself with integrity. Number 5, shun any private gain from public employment. I think we see this a lot in the news. We see public employees, whether it's county commissioners, city council members, mayors, governors, higher level politicians that use their position of power for personal gain. Kind of seems like the ship has sailed on that one, although we know what's right and what's wrong. It seems like people will continue to do it. I think the best that we can do is carry ourselves with integrity and not use our positions for personal gain. And I think personally we'll be okay. Number 6, act impartially. This is big because I think that you're not always going to agree or like all the people that you work with. You're not always going to like the proposals that they have. And you can't let that dislike for them on a personal level influence your behavior on a professional level, especially if it comes down to making decisions as far as holding employees accountable for mistakes. I think you need to look solely at the mistake and not at the person that made that mistake. Number 7, treat others the way I would like to be treated. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer there. We all want to be treated fairly. We want to be treated with respect. We want to be appreciated for our hard work, and we should also treat others the same way. Lastly, report fraud, waste, and corruption. I think maybe kind of a little caveat to that should be act without wasting, without committing fraud, without committing corruption, but also reporting it. And to me, that comes down to promoting a culture in an environment within the organization where people feel comfortable reporting those things, but also it's an environment where people don't want to commit those acts because it's such a ethically focused culture.